Welcome back to the NRL Banter Box. We are the second most famous duo behind Shaw and Marley. My name's the Professor and we're joined by Lil P.
Hi everyone, we've had a brilliant magic round filled with rain, a new Prime Minister, and some excellent tries, so I can't wait to get into it.
Yes, indeed. So we'll recap everything that unfolded there at Suncorp Stadium over a magical 3 days. We'll jump into any hot talking points and then a preview of round 10. So who am I? Let's get into it, Lil P.
Thanks, Professor. Listeners, let's see if you can guess today's mystery NRL star. I was born in 1996 in Gosford, New South Wales. I made my NRL debut in 2019 with Melbourne Storm, but I really made a name for myself after moving to a different club. I wear jersey number 7 for my team, and I've also been known to wear the same number while representing the Blues for State of Origin. I'm known for my classic wet hair look, cool head under pressure, and amazing kicking game. In 2022, I won the Dally M Medal as NRL's best player. Off the field, I'm a proud Indigenous man and a passionate advocate for mental health. I have recently overcome a serious injury and come back strong in 2025 to lead my team. I hope you get this right, listeners. It's a pretty tricky one this week.
Thanks, Lil P. And then we also have some players celebrating their birthdays this week. Who have we got?
We do. So on May 1st, we have Daniel Safiti from the Dolphins and his twin brother Jacob Safiti of the Knights. On the 2nd, we have Miles Martin from the Raiders. On the 3rd, Fletcher Sharp from the Knights. 4th, Max King of the Bulldogs and Trey Mooney from the Raiders. On the 7th, we have Brodie Jones from the Knights. 11th, we have Tom Chester from the Cowboys. And finally, on the 12th of May, we have Fletcher Myers from the Rabbitohs. Happy birthday, fellas, and I hope you have a great season ahead.
Oh, that's great, Lil P. So thank you. Let's talk about the NRL Magic Round with all games being played in Brisbane. What caught your eye? What were the highlights?
For me, Professor, it was a very recognisable player from the Storm with the white headgear. His name is Sualauvi Faalogo, I'm pretty sure. And I loved that try that he set up for Pappenhausen. That was a great kick, but before that, a great run. He just exploded onto the field with incredible speed and lightning fast footwork. He is definitely a player to look out for this season, Professor. So my highlight was Faalogo from the Storm and that try. And for me, I also really like Ben Hunt from the Brisbane Broncos. He had a pretty good game, scoring their only try. So well done to Ben Hunt and Sualauvi Faalogo. Really, two players to look out for this season.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about. So many highlights there from the Magic Round. For me, it was the second game of Cowboys versus the Warriors. The Warriors were dominating that game in the first half, and the Cowboys started to stage a miracle comeback. They got very close. For a long time there was only a slim margin between both teams, but it was ultimately the Warriors, through their gritty defense and resolve, that they won that contest. Super impressive. The Warriors fans who were cheering, they were so passionate and very, very vocal there at Suncorp Stadium. My other highlight, Lil P, was the surface, the playing surface at Suncorp Stadium. Despite consistent rain throughout the 3 days, it held up and didn't pose too many problems there, even in the final game that we saw together, which was the Storm taking on the Raiders. And my final highlight then, of course, was your reaction, Lil P, to Sean and Marley. That was a wild reaction, and I know that you're a big fan of those two boys.
Yes, I am indeed. They're very good.
So what were some of the lowlights? What didn't you like this NRL Magic Round?
Well, for me, Professor, it was actually the sin bins during the Raiders versus Storm game. There was a moment where Cameron Munster was pretty unhappy with Tom Starling, and they had a tackle and they were rolling around with each other. And then Tom Starling ended up on his back and he picked him up, Munster, and threw him on the ground. And there were no sin bins. No sin bins for that.
Yeah,
And there was so much biff between those two teams, but there weren't that many sin bins at all. Even if I saw a couple of fists attempted to be thrown, but no, it didn't result in any sin bins. So that was pretty shocking from the refs. Um, but my other low light was actually Suncorp Stadium. The grass just made it in time, but it did
yeah,
look quite slippy and
yes.
muddy. There was on and off rain, Milton's at Suncorp, very, very unpredictable weather. But yeah, there was a pretty funny moment where there was a conversion being made from the Gold Coast Titans, and he actually slipped due to how muddy the grass was. But yeah, those were my low lights, just Suncorp Stadium and how the grass was in its condition for Magic Round.
Yeah, there's one more highlight that I actually wanted to note there, Lil P, before jumping into the lowlights, and that was between one of the games at the halftime entertainment. There's a competition where a spectator needed to run along the sideline to win some sort of prize, and a over diligent, very committed security guard actually stopped him from making that run. He
I
thought he
remember
was
that.
a trespasser onto the field, but then he realized, oh no, this is actually a halftime bit of entertainment. So that was just so hilarious. Lowlights. Lowlights, Lil P, was all Queensland teams. So Titans, Cowboys, Dolphins, Broncos all went down. No home ground advantage, it seems, for all those
Mm.
Queensland sides. My other lowlight, which was quite dull, not very engaging, was these DJ performances at halftime. Uh, yeah, not terribly impressed there with what was going on there. Any other talking points that you wanted to quickly mention before we get into the round 10 ahead?
Yes, I did actually have one, and that was Ryan Pappenhausen celebrating his 100th game in Melbourne Storm. Sadly, they did not get to celebrate it by a win, as sadly the Raiders got a penalty goal. But I think he had a pretty good game to celebrate. I got a try, couple of good conversions as well. So well done to Ryan Pappenhausen. A great game from him. But happy 100th
Agree.
game, Ryan.
Agree. Paps was very strong again there on Sunday night. So my other talking point, Lil P, was heading into the round where the Penrith Panthers were actually 17th and last on the ladder, and they put on a very clinical, professional display against the Broncos. That was very unexpected. So a talking point and a question mark is, are they back? Can they continue their winning ways and make the way back into the eight and maybe even a finals and premiership contender once again? So before we jump into the round 10 preview, who am I? Let's close it out.
Okay, so the Who Am I was Nico Hines from the Cronulla Sharks. And I really agree that the wet hair look is very iconic for him as a player, very easy to spot. So
Yeah,
yeah, really great player, and I hope you all got that, listeners.
thanks, Lil P. So we then head back to Sydney and different grounds around the country. We have on Thursday night, now this is a really interesting contest. We've got Parramatta, who are at home, and then they're taking on the Dolphins. The Dolphins were quite underwhelming in their performance against the Roosters in Magic Round. What do you think about this one?
I think that the Dolphins have had some pretty strong performances and disappointing. Two very polar opposite performances from them. They've lost pretty badly and also won pretty well. So I think that they might be able to gather their confidence and overcome this game. So I think the Dolphins will win.
Yeah, I agree. So then we head into an intriguing contest. The Friday night first game, we've got the Knights. They're at home and they're taking on the Titans.
Oh, I think that the Titans might win. I know that they weren't very strong against the Bulldogs, but hopefully they'll get themselves together and prepare for this game. I do hope that the Titans really improve this season. I know they're capable. I really do. I know they're capable of playing well, putting on a good performance, scoring tries. They're very, very much capable. So I hope the
Yeah.
Titans win this one.
Yeah, I'm probably going to go for the Knights for that one, just with a home ground advantage. And they put on a very impressive performance in convincingly beating Souths on the weekend. So heading into then a very interesting match, then we have the Rabbitohs, an undermanned Rabbitohs, got some injuries, but Latrell Mitchell is back and they're taking on the Broncos in Sydney.
Well, Professor, this is an interesting game because, do you know who else is coming back against the Broncos clash against Rabbitohs? Do you know?
Is it Ezra, your man Ezra?
It's Ezra. It's Ezra,
Yeah.
man. He is coming back after a 10-game 10-round suspension. In the Broncos versus Panthers game, he was actually sitting on the sidelines cheering on the Bronx. But when he came on camera, there was some pretty controversial cheers, some boos, some pretty happy Broncos fans. So I'm not sure how it's going to go. There might be some pretty unhappy faces wearing the jersey, might be some happy faces. I'm not too sure how that will go, but I hope the mighty Broncos will win this one. The Rabbitohs have not been the strongest this season, but the Broncos, after a win against the Bulldogs, who are top of the table, and a loss from the bottom of the table, I think that they will probably be able to get over the Rabbitohs.
Yeah, I think so too. So then we head into a top of the table clash. This is in Canberra. We have the winning streak of the Canberra Raiders, and they're taking on ladder leaders, the Bulldogs, on Saturday afternoon at 3 p.m. Now, what do you think about this one?
Well, the Bulldogs, as I mentioned in I think a couple of previous episodes, they are a pretty strong team this year, and I think that is due to their aggressiveness, their grit. They are a very gritty team, and they really love to get into their tackles strong and hard. I think that they have a reason to be on the top of the table, and that is because of their excellent gameplay being tough and getting into those really strong tackles. So I think the Bulldogs will probably win this one.
Yeah, I think we're both aligned on that one. I like the Bulldogs in that contest. So then we have the Dragons, and they're at home in Wollongong, and they're taking on the third place Warriors.
Well, the Warriors have had some pretty strong performances this year. Definitely had a couple of games on their home soil with their home team supporting them, and they've had really some happy supporters in the crowd there cheering them on. I think that they will have gathered confidence from their other wins, some pretty excellent wins. I think the Warriors will probably win this one.
Yeah, I think you're right there. So then we head up to Townsville, and the Panthers are taking on the Cowboys. The Panthers are surprisingly favourites for this match. This is the Saturday night contest. What do you think about this one?
Well, I'm not too sure who to put your money on here, Professor. The Cowboys have had a pretty entertaining round, as you mentioned earlier, on Friday night, I believe. We were there for a bit of the end of the match, but I wish I was there for longer. They put on a very entertaining round of football. So then, on the other hand, we have the Panthers, bottom of the table, but they did beat the Broncos, who are currently sitting fifth, and the Broncos had just beaten the top of the table. So I'm not sure. I think the Cowboys will get over the top of the Panthers after, Scott Drinkwater, all these stars, really strong plays so far this season. I think the Cowboys will win this one against the Panthers.
Yeah, I can see this one being a tight contest. I'm leaning a little bit more towards the Panthers without too much confidence there, but backing them to back up their good display against the Broncos on the weekend. So then we head into the two final matches for round 10, and we have the Storm. They're back at home, and they're taking on the Tigers.
Oh, well, the Tigers have they beat not sure who they played actually. I don't think I remember. But they beat the other team and they did put on a pretty good performance. So I think the Tigers might win this one, Professor.
Yeah, I'm going to back the Storm to win this one. So Craig Bellamy, not too happy about what unfolded there on Sunday night with a game that should have been won. Storm at home, yeah, it should be a convincing win there. And then we head to Manly. They're playing at Four Pines Park, and to close out round 10, they're taking on the Sharks.
I think the Sharks have been pretty strong this year. I know they haven't had too many wins, But after some pretty close losses, I know against the Tigers, it was just by 2 points. But I think the Tigers will probably win this one. They've had some pretty good and strong tackles and strong attack this year. So I think that Sharks will win this one.
Sharks. Yeah, really interesting, that one. I'm probably going to lean towards the Sharks as well, but that's another really intriguing and close contest. We've got the Roosters, who've got the week off, and this time next week we'll be back to recap all things that have happened in NRL Round 10. If you want to get in contact with us, you can email us at nrlbanterbox@gmail.com. We'll be back this time next week. Thanks, Lil P.
Bye-bye. Bye.